there is no latent supply in the trucking and logistics industry. There's actually a massive trucker shortage. You need to have a commercial driver's license. You also need this thing called a rig. You don't just have people with rigs lying around. Small 3PLs are being left behind. There are over 17,000 3PLs in this country. Can you smell fragmentation? The one thing on Uber I'm not as bullish on is honestly Uber Freight. And here is why. It kind of reminds me of when Amazon was trying to get into liquor delivery. And what you tend to see is these platform conglomerates have a huge ability to spin off new platform businesses, right? Every kind of large tech monopoly, UFAMGA, I put Uber in there now, they're basically becoming massive new business incubation engines, right? Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, they literally have hundreds of teams. All these teams are tasked with doing is start a new platform for me. Take one or both sides of my existing ecosystem, my consumers, my producers, my brand, the value-add services. Take these assets and spin out platform businesses. That is what the teams are tasked with. And that's why when you look at how Uber reports their financials, let's pull up this graph here, right? Here is gross bookings. So on a gross bookings basis, they actually had 37% growth, right? Then they break out core platform gross bookings. So this is 15.57 billion. And in this, you see them breaking out ride sharing and Uber Eats, right? This is 15.75 billion. So you've got over $200 million in GMV from just other bets. That's literally what they call this, other bets. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And what are these other bets? Well, it's a series of things, one of which is Uber Freight. Here's the challenge with Uber Freight and the Amazon corollary. When Amazon gets into many new businesses, they kind of like to do things the Amazon way. I want to get into this new platform model, but I don't want to change all the underlying infrastructure and that core transaction of how I connect a consumer with, say, a third-party seller or distributor, right? So the problem for Amazon and liquor was that there's laws and it's regulated. And you can't actually have a take rate that's actually against the law in New York State. That's a much less sticky model. It's kind of like what we talked about with car marketplaces, cars.com, Cars Gurus, these kind of like 1.0 marketplaces like a Craigslist, not as sticky, not much lock-in effect. Same thing I think is going to happen in logistics with Uber Freight. Here's why. When Uber really took off, it wasn't Uber Black where Uber started. Uber started with Uber Black cars. That was okay. But the true value, the true breakthrough for Uber was when you can create new supply, right? Marketplaces thrive on fragmentation. Where was their fragmentation? Saying, oh, literally just anyone in this country who owns a car and has a few extra hours of free time, why don't I let them drive and be a taxi? And that was Uber X. And when Uber X came out, they got the hockey stick curve, right? Uber X, not Uber Black, which is where they started. Uber X is really the thing that has driven, that they've been able to tap into literally what you would call not just fragmentation, but latent supply. Just everyone now can be a taxi driver, right? And make incremental money. There is no latent supply in the trucking and logistics industry. There's actually a massive trucker shortage by the millions of truckers. And it's much harder to just say, hey, does anyone want to go drive a truck? It just doesn't work that way. You can't do like Uber X for trucks. You need to have a commercial driver's license. You also need this thing called a rig. You don't just have people with rigs lying around. So it's a much different industry, which means that when you have much tighter supply, it still is very fragmented. There's still a lack of pricing transparency. So there are a lot of these inefficiencies. And that's essentially what Uber Freight is solving for right now. It's basically saying, hey, I'm going to connect a small shipper with these, kind of more individual, independent truck drivers. And I'm going to take the friction out of payments. So Uber Freight's paying the drivers in like 5 days, whereas typically the drivers would get paid in maybe 30 or 60 days. So that's nice. But if you listen to Bill Gurley, a platform guru, you're really just like, what's the value there? Is there really a platform network effect value? Or are you just kind of helping out on the economics and like giving them their money faster. So yeah, you're giving them an app. That's nice. Better technology. You're giving them money faster. That's nice. You're giving them some better economics. Is there a true network effect lock-in dynamic here? And it's not there in the current construct of how Uber does things, which is consumer to producer. The model that needs to be embraced by Uber, and which I'm telling you scares the living daylights out of the large trucking and logistics companies like an XPO, like a JB Hunt, like a DB Schenker, CH Robinson, etc., is this. Where is their fragmentation? Where could you harness supply that you're not harnessing today? So all these big trucking companies are saying, oh, we're investing $500 million, $1 billion into our infrastructure. There's this thing in the trucking industry called 3PLs, third-party logistics provider. And basically, you can think of a 3PL as kind of like a 20th century broker, right? And the 3PL is saying, I connect a shipper with truckers. And I am the middleman. I'm kind of coordinating the logistics and the route and, how this load is going to fit into the, trucker's schedule. There's these things called less than truckload LTL market versus full truckload FTL. And so you find a lot of this in the LTL market starting, which is more commoditized, kind of, hey, I've got some extra room on my truck. Let me put in a new load. Then it can slowly start to creep up into the FTL market. Here's the thing. I think the true winner-take-all dynamic in the logistics 3PL industry is to do exactly that. Not a two-sided marketplace. It's a three-sided marketplace. What you need to do is commoditize the complement. If you're a large incumbent trucking and 3PL company and you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into your 3PL software connecting shippers and truckers, right? What you need to do is open up the kimono to the enemy. Who is the enemy? The small mom and pop 3PLs. Those are their fiercest competitors. So if I'm an Uber, how do I win in Uber Freight? I embrace my competition. Who Uber Freight is supposed to replace, right? They're supposed to replace the role of the 3PL. What I'm saying is you're not going to get to scale unless you embrace who you're trying to replace right now. Eventually replace them in 10 years, right? And get to scale. But here's the trick. I give away the technology for free. Rule 1 of every platform. Give away the technology for free. I let the 3PLs use my technology to coordinate between their existing shipping customers and their existing trucking supply. Fantastic. Value add. Free software. The software sucks in this industry, by the way. It's horrible, especially if you're a small 3PL. Okay. That's why the big trucking companies are making, we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into all this infrastructure and tech. Great. Small 3PLs are being left behind. There are over 17,000 3PLs in this country. Can you smell fragmentation? Number 2, now you bring extra demand to the 3PLs, to the small 3PLs. Maybe it's a little bit more complicated jobs. Maybe it's things that what Uber Freight is doing today, which is just simply connecting shipper to trucker, right? No middleman. The platform is purely the middleman. There are a tranche of jobs that don't fit that matchmaking mechanism. So you can get those jobs and bring those to 3PLs. And you can also now figure out different economics where maybe you want a little bit of a higher touch value add service model with 3PLs. But the point is, for the platform model that truly embraces a three-sided marketplace. Now, three-sided marketplaces are exponentially more difficult than a two-sided marketplace. But if you really want to capture immense supply, and that's the challenge in this business. How do I get supply? And you're not purely going to capture supply by only relying on independent truckers that the platform can have this direct relationship with. You're going to need to open up to these small mom and pop 3PLs and then ipso facto get access to the small 3PLs truckers. And now you can really tap into serious supply. And then you can really try to juice demand. And you, by the way, can capture a much wider spectrum of demand. So that's my challenge with Uber Freight. I don't know if Uber Freight is going to be able to break the mold for how Uber does logistics marketplaces, which is a two-sided marketplace. But for Uber Freight to win, it needs to be a three-sided marketplace. And there are different tech startups that are taking a three-sided marketplace approach. But if Uber does this, then obviously, I mean, they do it in a big way. And that to me would be the really scary thing for the large incumbent trucking companies. Hi, this is Alex Mozed. Thanks for joining us on Winner Take All. If you enjoyed the content today, which I bet you did, please comment, subscribe, and definitely message me on Twitter when we're doing live streams. Also, please note, all opinions expressed about stocks or public companies on the show are exactly that, opinions. This is not investment advice. Don't act on it. WisdomTree licensed Applico's Platform Insights data product to aid in the creation of the PLAT ETF. Thanks for joining us.